Okay, hold on. Well, I guess we're gonna do it this way today. Hello, everybody. I tried to put the camera in horizontal mode, but for some reason that didn't work. Hello. Good morning. Okay, I hope you guys can see me and hear me. Hold on, this is not working, I think. Hold on. Am I in the right one? I am. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I was just going to make sure that I am in the scheduled live stream so you can see it later. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Aloha 23 October. As you know, in our limited color palette challenge, we have a different color palette each month and a different theme and a different prompt each week. And this month, we have a very limited color palette. So let me show you the colors. It's pretty much just yellow and magenta and blue. So the three primary colors. And my co-host Marie also decided that she wants just some regular brown. This is a burnt umber and metallic gold. So I thought it would be a good idea to show you guys what you can do with just these three colors. I mean, it's basically 5 colors, but if you have these 3, yellow, magenta, and blue, you would theoretically be also able to create different kinds of brown. The only thing that really stands out, I think, in this palette this month is the gold, because you can't really create that with any kind of primary colors. You have to have it. Okay, so today we're gonna work with mixing colors. And first, I want to show you how to create ombre, gradient, rainbow swatches with just the 3 colors. Yellow, magenta, and blue. And then we're gonna create a color chart. So let me just explain real quick how this one is set up. So down here in the lower bottom, you can see that the saturation is much higher than up here. And this is on purpose. So even though these colors here correspond, these are basically the same, I think it's interesting how much difference it makes if you have different degrees of saturation. So in this row here in the center, in this diagonal, we have the basic colors of the palette. So yellow, magenta, blue, brown, and gold. And then we just create these mixes from these colors. And later on, you can just pull out your color chart and you'll know with one glance which color you can create. Let's say you want to create a purple, you can just see, okay, this is the purple I'm going to get. More saturated, less saturated. All right, so we start. Let me try and turn around the camera. Okay, so I set it up for horizontal today. So let me see if that works. If I'm gonna turn it around. Hello everybody, hi Sylvie. Hi Debbie. All right, okay, it's gonna, you know that already. It's gonna be a bit shaky. I'm gonna turn it around. Hold on, let me find that turn around button and you'll see some of my view here, the treehouse view. All right. You can pretty much see my whole setup here now. I got some beautiful flowers today too. They bring me so much joy. And these last forever, I tell you guys. I have this bunch like for 2 weeks or so. They look the same. They just always look like plastic. Okay, so I just saw that Sylvie said she's always been meaning to make a color chart. Today's your chance. Let's do it. All right, I'm just gonna put my hair together so it's not all over the place. And you know what? I think I'm gonna go a bit closer. And let's talk supplies real quick, because look here, I got 2 mixing trays today, and that's for a reason. We're gonna do a lot of mixing for the color chart, and it might also get a bit confusing. So I'm gonna try and keep it as simple and as cohesive as possible, but it's you know, you're gonna end up with a lot of color mixes. So if you have 2 trays or 2 plates, that would be ideal. And then for the color chart, you can use a small round brush, or considering that these are squares, you can also use a small flat brush. I actually haven't tried that, but it might be a good idea. I was just thinking of that. But I'm gonna do it with a round brush today. And for the rainbow swatches that we'll start with, I am gonna use a large quill brush, but it doesn't matter. You can also use a round brush. That really doesn't matter. So whatever you have at hand. These sketchbooks here, these 2 were made by Denise from Artmoments in Switzerland, and look how pretty they are. I just love these. This is one of her designs, and actually I think this as well. So hand-bound sketchbooks. This is with arches or arche. I love saying that word. And this is with a paper, I think it's Gerstäcker. It's a German art supply company, kind of like Blick in America. They have their own paper. I have to say, it pretty much behaves like arches. Oh, and you can see here, I actually made a really messy color chart. You can think about doing something like this too, but I'm gonna show you how to make the more, you know, geometrically pleasing color chart today. Okay, but let's start with our rainbow swatches. So, hey, just one more thing. From what I just said, you could tell that I'm using quite high quality watercolor paper today. And if you don't have that, no worries. So for this one here, I used a cheaper paper. This is not watercolor paper, just pretty much heavy cardstock, and it does work. It's just not as pretty, but you'll be able to see the color mixes, and you know, you'll be able to create different shades of the colors that you want. But if you have higher quality watercolor paper, it's actually worth it to try it out, even if you think, oh man, really, should I waste my great paper for swatches? It's kind of like, I don't know, but it's really wonderful, especially if you are going to paint on this kind of paper later. So if you do the swatches on the same paper that you use later, it's actually smart, makes sense, because then you know exactly how your paints will behave, what your color mix will look like. All right, let me just pull in my iPad a bit closer too so I can see your comments. Just gonna move around the camera a little bit. All right. Okay. Oh, there she is. Hi, Denise. Ahoy, hoy. And yes, Sylvie's asking, yeah, if the Gerstäcker book is also cotton, and yes, it is, right, Denise? Oh yeah, she said that. Sorry, I'm a bit behind with the comments. Okay, let's start with our rainbow swatches. So I have my color palette here. The colors are a medium cadmium yellow, It's called Mango in Aloha watercolors. This is a quinacridone pink. It's called Orchid in Aloha watercolors. And this is a cobalt blue, which is Blue Canoe with my watercolors. This is burnt umber called Cocoa. And this is the fabulous Hula Queen metallic gold. Okay, so the way these color swatches, the rainbow swatches, work is that you first paint one color on one side, then you paint the other color on the other side, and then you merge the two in the middle. All right, I'm grabbing some of my yellow until I have a really nice thick consistency. So I'm using quite a bit of pigment here. It's really thick. Then with a few strokes, you start here on the left side and don't go all the way to the center. You really want your color blob to stay on the left. And then rinse your brush. I actually have 2 water containers today. In the first one, I rinse my brush, and then in the second one, I rinse it again so that really all the paint comes out of my brush. And I might probably end up in the middle of the session having to change the water of my first container. Okay, next let's grab some of the cobalt blue. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm just adding it to my ceramic palette here. You can of course also just go straight from the pan onto the paper, but because we're gonna do the color chart later and I'll use these ceramic palettes, you know, I'm kind of like prepping for the later part of the session already. Next, you're just gonna paint a few strokes of blue here on the right hand side. And now you're just gonna slowly approach the yellow. And can you see that just this one little stroke I did here already created this nice moss green? Okay, so a few more strokes. Just go back and forth a little bit. Make sure you don't go all the way into the yellow and all the way back into the blue. You just want to mix the colors here in the center. Right now I'm rinsing my brush again in both containers, and I'm gonna go and grab some of my yellow and start again over here on the yellow side and then paint over the center section. And this is where working with really good quality watercolor paper comes in handy, because if you use just some regular mixed media paper, for example, your mix in the center won't turn out as well. You might end up with, you know, a harsh line. Regular paper also dries a lot faster, so it's possible that you might not be happy with the results at first. And cotton watercolor paper makes it a lot easier, so don't be too hard on yourself. If you try this for the first time and the paper you're using is not great paper, blame it on the paper. Don't blame it on yourself. All right, let's do a yellow and pink mix. Next, I already have my yellow and I rinsed my brush really well. Gonna dip into my quinacridone pink here. Okay, let me activate that a little more. I want to have a bit more pigment on my brush. looking good. Okay, and then we'll pretty much do the same thing as over here. You start on the left-hand side. If you're a left-handed person, it might be easier for you to start on the other side. But I honestly think for these rainbow swatches, it's not that important. But just saying, you know, I mean, whatever makes you feel more comfortable and more relaxed. Start on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side. And while I'm talking right now, I'm rinsing my brushes again with the same method. First container and then one more time in the second container. By the way, I've seen people use different brushes for these kind of exercises. So you could theoretically just have 3 brushes handy and just, you know, use one brush for each color so you don't have to rinse them as thoroughly as I'm doing here. And same thing, approaching the other side and going back and forth a little bit between the colors. Make sure you leave the left and the right side untouched and just blend in the center. I will go back in with some of my pink. I'm rinsing my brush again right now. So as you can see, I think it's really important to have your brush clean, really clean in between the strokes. If you don't, you'll go in there and you'll already have some yellow on your brush and you'll end up muddling the whole thing again. All right, I'm also always aware of the fact that it's super easy to overwork these swatches. So the more often I go in, the more often I rub these paints, the less pleasing they'll look. But because I don't like this harsh line here, I'm gonna go back in with my yellow, pick up some water. Okay, and one last time from this side, approaching the now red part in the center. Okay, and I think this is pretty much enough. So we don't have a nice gradient like we did in the first one. I really like this one. I don't mind that it's fanning out here. I kind of like this one. It's a bit wilder than the other ones I made. And this one here has a bit of a harsh line here. So I'm okay with that, but you can try and work it a little more by slowly and carefully moving your brush up and down and going back and forth just in a very narrow spot here. Very, very tempting to just go over the same spot 10 times. So I have to remind myself to pace myself pretty much. Like, this is the last time, Keiko. This is it. Let's leave it. And don't forget, it will dry and it'll look different. Watercolor dries more light and it looks a bit different once it's dry. So you might not really love it when it's still wet, but you know, give it a chance. Look at it when it's dry. I'm gonna go and change my water already. Look at that, it's really thick and brown, orange. And I'm located right by the water. That's why I'm outside today, because I knew I'd have to run and get some fresh water. Okay, oops, I almost dipped my brush in my tea. Yeah, that happens. Let's have a sip. Hi, Rudy. And Sylvie says she loves the birds singing in the background. Aren't they cute? Okay, so the onesie here that go like, those are the cute little tiny Hawaiian pigeons. And then what else can we hear? The one that goes like that. It's actually not a bird. That's a frog. I know it sounds insane. It's a coqui frog. These frogs are usually only active at night. They're trying to get laid at night, but I guess this one kind of missed his call and he's still trying. Well, good luck, buddy. Okay, so the last one we're gonna do is the pink one mixed with the blue one for a nice purple. And let me grab some more paint. And just for a little change, let me try and start this one here on the right hand side. So I have to say it feels kind of awkward starting on the right hand side for me, because I always start these swatches on the left. Very strange. And I'm gonna grab some of my blue. I'm rinsing my brush right now again. 2 containers, making sure there's no pink left in my brush. And then coming in from the left side. And slowly mixing these two. Ooh, that's such a nice shade of purple. Look at that. Wow, that's really pretty. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love this moss green here, and then this almost rusty red, but this purple, oh, it's so pretty. And see, for this one here, I mean, I only mixed it for probably, what was it, 3 seconds, and I think it's done. I think this is good. I mean, now, you know, I could go back in like I did with the 2 others and work those again, but I think this is gonna dry just fine and look just fine, so I'm gonna leave it. All right. You know, guys, I'm wondering where my mom is. She was wanting to be a part of this too. I guess maybe she has some technical issues. It's always hard for her to to try and find the live streams, and then it's either on YouTube or Instagram. It's confusing, I know. All right. Okay, I'm gonna start moving things around again a little bit. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, hopefully this works for you too. Okay. Are any of you trying out these swatches right now? Are they working for you? And if you're using a different kind of paper, maybe you can let me know how that's working for you. You know, if you're using just some regular wood pulp paper or something like that, I would just be interested in how is it going. All right, so next, let's look at the color chart one more time. So I know that, you know, just showing you how it works is it's probably the best idea, but let me just quickly explain just the basics. So here in the center diagonal, we have our basic colors, the ones from the palette. So the yellow, pink, blue, brown, and the metallic gold. And now what you want to do, you always orient yourself here on the center line. So for this swatch here, you go back to the center line, you find the yellow, you go back to the center line here, you find the pink. So pink and yellow together make this red. For this green here, back to the center line, you end up with the yellow. Back to the center line, you end up with the blue. So you know that mixing yellow and blue makes this green. And one more thing I have to say here is that these are kind of like 50-50% mixes. So approximately 50% yellow and 50% blue. Of course, you know, you could take just a tiny hint of yellow and a lot of blue, and then your green would look different. So by no means does this color chart cover all the possible color mixes you could create. But this is just, I'd say, an idea. You can start with a general idea of what these colors do when you mix them. And from there, you could theoretically create even larger color charts. But this would be just a bit too long for today's session. So I thought we'll just do 50-50 mixes. And I mean, look at all these, look at these almost like Payne's gray shades here. So gorgeous. Okay. So I'm gonna put this here so we can keep an eye on it. And I'm gonna put this to the side for now, because now we're gonna draw the outline for our swatches. So as you know, I'm usually more of a messy, quick painter, so I hardly ever plan out my sketches or paintings. This is an item I really almost never use. So watch me use a ruler today. Let's see how it goes. Hi, Edie. Oh, I'm glad you love the watercolors. Thank you. Okay, I'm just checking to see what you guys are talking about in the comments. Okay, so Sylvie was saying she needs the exact colors. Oh, you mean you don't have the Aloha watercolors? Yeah, but that doesn't matter for the challenge. You can use whatever. That's why I actually gave you guys the name of the pigments too. Medium cadmium yellow, cobalt blue, and quinacridone pink. So it really doesn't matter. You can use whatever brand you have. You can even use other media like gouache or so. You know, it's just, for this challenge, I just want you guys to have fun and to just be a part of it. Okay, so looking at my sketchbook here, I'm using American measurements, so these are inches. But of course, you know, you can also work with centimeters. It really doesn't matter. I would just look at how big your page is. And in my case, this is really convenient because we're working with 5 colors. And I can easily create 5 squares here in my sketchbook. It's a bit bigger than 5 inches, But then, you know, it makes it look pretty because I can actually leave a little frame around my color chart. So just look at how big the pages you're working with, and then just take something that is convenient on your scale, on your ruler. So for me, just working in inch squared, sorry, 1 inch squares is very convenient. And let's see, I'm gonna try and center this a little more. So, oh, and by all means, you know, you could do this a lot more. How'd you say? You can plan out this where you put this square even better, of course. So I'm kind of eyeballing, you know, a lot of parts of this process here as well. Like, for example, how, you know, how far away from the edge of my paper. But of course, you could really do it super exact. Okay, so I have my outer frame. Just let me check if I'm still in the picture. Yeah, okay. Ah, servus Tanja. Oh. All right, and we're just gonna connect the dots. Connect the dots. You know what, guys? That reminds me of, oh, I loved that as a kid. Do you remember when you had like a page in a comic book or something and it only had these dots? And then you were supposed to connect them, and then once you're done, it was an animal or, you know, a picture of some sort. And it was really kind of tricky to figure out what it would be in the end. Just totally love that. And I don't see these things anymore. Is that still around? Is that still a thing? I don't think so. Or is it? All right, so I connected my dots, and then you can just connect the dots that you set every other inch, or every inch actually. Hi, Mishi. Okay, Michelle says they still have connect the dots in children's books. Oh, okay. I just thought that was so cool, and I always wondered how people would come up with an idea like that. My lines look wonky. This is so funny. I'm sure you guys can make this a lot better than I can. Oh yeah, it turns out I actually didn't make the this line here long enough. It's not 5 inches. Okay, so this is so typical. It's so typical, you guys. Oh my gosh. So you can probably also imagine how good I was in math. So I sucked, pretty much. But for this reason, I brought my eraser. Ta-da! Ha! I came prepared. And honestly, usually I wouldn't even bother, but because this is a live stream, and I, you know, I kind of want to make it right, so you can make it right, you guys. I'm gonna try again. So, it's gonna be really, really perfect for me. Maybe not for you, but for me, very perfect. Ah, nein, Denise. Kommst du mit dem Geld? Ah. Okay, Denise just told me I should use a triangle shaped ruler. What's that called in English? I don't even know. You know, guys, the triangle one. Okay, if you have that, use that. Listen to Art Moments, because she makes a lot of swatches and it always looks perfect when she does it. So for those of you who have just joined my live stream, the sketchbook I'm using here was handmade by Art Moments, who's joining us today too in the comments. So just FYI, she makes the most gorgeous designs and then creates sketchbooks from them. It's really beautiful. All right, and we're gonna connect the dots again. And we're almost done with the grid. Whoop, whoop. Hey, this is looking pretty good. Okay, it's wonky a little. Yeah, it's like falling down here a little bit. Who cares? Doesn't matter. It's all good. All right, and then just add a diagonal line here in the center. All right. Okay, and another thing I want to mention, so I did this without any kind of tape, but you can of course make everything larger and then tape the spaces in between if you want really crisp lines. You can use one of these really skinny washi tapes and tape everything. And then you don't also have to be afraid of, you know, mixing the colors by accident. So I'm working around this today by just painting the squares a bit smaller than the actual size of the square. But please feel free to use tape if you want really crisp edges and, you know, want to paint confidently in your squares without having, I can actually show you what it looks like if you don't do that, you know, like here. So I had a lot of mixing and blending going on here, which in itself is a pretty cool look, I'd say. I mean, I like it wild. All right, so in today's session, I will do the part with the gold last, because I don't, so the metallic gold, the pigments, once you start dipping your brush in gold or any kind of metallic paint, it will just be everywhere. Even if you rinse your brush, you go back into a regular paint pan and it'll just be gold shimmery as well. So for this reason, first we're just gonna do this part here, just using the 4 non-shimmer colors. And then at the end of the session, we'll do this row, the one with the gold. All right, so I'm not gonna use this big ass thing today. I'm just gonna use a size 3 round brush. And I could imagine this would work really well with a small flat brush as well. But I'm using a round brush. And we will first start with the center diagonal. So just the pure, unmixed, 100% primary colors. So first square, upper left. And as I said before, you want to leave a little bit of a white edge around your swatch. And the reason I have this in 2 triangle shapes is that we're gonna do the lower part of the color chart with 100% saturation, and then up here it's about, I'd say maybe 60%, just not as much pigment. Okay, I'm adding a little bit of water to my brush. Sorry, this is off camera. I could maybe rearrange things so you can see it. So I still have the same paint mix on my brush. I just added some water. And now I'm painting the upper part of my swatch here. So this is just a lighter version of the same yellow. If it looks that it's a bit too strong, you can just rinse your brush again, add a little bit of water, and paint in the second part of this triangle here. And if you think that it's too light, then you can add a tiny bit of pigment. So again, I'm more intuitive with this kind of process. But of course, you can also try and add more pigment to your first triangle if you feel like, oh, that's a bit too light, to just get this full saturation. So just play around with the, you know, the difference in saturations here. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna go change my water one more time because look how purple it is. I almost feel like my yellow has a slight tint of blue in it, and that's probably because my paint water was already a bit purple from the previous exercise. Okay, I'm gonna change the water in my second container too. All right. So how are your color charts looking? Are you painting alongside with me? Let me know how it's going. Next one is the pink, the quinacridone pink. What a funny name that is, huh? I always wondered where that comes from. Quinacridone pink. I didn't even know how to pronounce it for the longest time. I'm actually not sure I'm pronouncing it right. Okay, I'm looking at the comments and Sylvie says hers are looking wonky because she didn't use a ruler and she hates it. Well, Sylvie, you're making my swatches and I'm making your swatches. How about it? Because I love it messy and wonky. And you like it more clean and tidy. And yes, I agree. It's really more, isn't it? It's true. She said it's really more about being here and live with all of you guys. And I agree. I mean, I've had a few live sessions where I was just like, OMG, Keiko, what are you doing? But it's okay. I mean, it is a live session. It's bound to, you know, go into fun and weird directions sometimes. Things are not gonna work out. I had different animals come in the room and visit me. I had friends come over who do not even know what Instagram is, so trying to explain what I'm doing is totally fruitless. So I'm just like, I'm so sorry. I'm busy right now, which I hate, you know, sending friends away. It's like, oh. So you never know what's gonna happen. Right now, it's very quiet here. There's no leaf blower, no chainsaw, no dogs barking, no trucks roaring. So, hey, keeping fingers crossed, you guys. This is really quiet. It's never that quiet. Up next, the blue. So, you know what? This is actually really nice and it's almost meditative. I like it. Which is crazy considering that we're in a live stream here, but it's just, yeah, the painting itself, it's just very, very calming, I think. And that might be due to the fact that, you know, you are planning it out first, so you know exactly what's gonna happen, what you're gonna paint where. So I guess for me, knowing exactly what the next step is, not having to really think about it too much, I guess that takes away some of the pressure and then just has a very calming effect. Okay, so as you can see, I used this well here in my ceramic palette to just drop down some paint and then add the water here to dilute the paint a bit for this part of the swatch. So that works pretty well. Up next is my burnt umber. All right, we'll fill this in here. And I'm adding some water and painting it out here in my other well of my ceramic palette to see if that's how I'm liking it. And yes, I do. So I'm just gonna put it down here on this side of my square. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm not gonna do the gold now just because it's gonna make all the other swatches sparkle gold, which means that we're gonna go back here to the top and we're gonna make the first mix, which is combining the yellow and the pink in this square here with the full saturation, 50-50, 50% yellow, 50% pink, and then a less saturated version up here at the top. And this is where you're gonna use a lot of, you know, palette mixing space. To create all these mixes. So let's see. Let's grab some of the yellow. And I'm gonna move over to my other palette in an attempt to just keep these colors as they are for right now. Oops. Just one note, you could theoretically mix the paints on the paper too. I tried it before. It does work. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I think you can get a much smoother swatch if you mix it on a palette and then just use your color mix. So we have this. This is pretty nice. It's kind of like a rusty brown orange red. I think I'm gonna maybe have to mix a bit more. This looks like it might not be enough. Okay, so I'm rinsing my brush again, grabbing more of my yellow. And also rinsing my brush again and adding some more of the magenta. Yeah, this should be enough. If you are using a very, very tiny brush, let's say a size 0 or size 1 because your color chart is really small, you can actually mix your colors with a larger brush just so you save your smaller brush, because smaller brushes are usually a bit more sensitive. They don't have as many bristles as the big ones. So yeah, for color mixing, you can just use a larger brush or a brush that's not as expensive or precious as the one you're using to paint. So for this square here, I'm using the full force of the paint, just very little water and a lot of pigment. Now for me it's really interesting. Can you see the difference? I mean, I made this color chart before and obviously I used more pink and magenta for this swatch here because this is definitely a different color than this one here. So I used more yellow for this one. So saying, you know, 50-50, it's not always really that accurate. But honestly, I think this one is actually more accurate in the sense of using 50% yellow and using 50% pink, because it would be more of an orange rather than this red, I think. Okay, I rinsed my brush, I picked up some water and just creating a diluted version of the same color. And painting the square up here. Once you're at this point and you have almost filled out your square, you can also just dip your brush in water instead of dipping it in your paint, and just adding a little bit of water to your square here, so you'll get a nice lighter version of the same color up here. And I'm leaving a little bit of white around the edges here so I don't paint into my other swatches. All right, here we go. So this color really reminds me of my Ercolano red that I have. It's called Koa in the Aloha watercolor store. That's so similar. It's really pretty, or maybe like a dark terracotta. Wow, I'm saying terracotta and I'm thinking spaghetti. How about that? You know, I've been to Italy so many times because I used to live in Switzerland and in Germany, so Italy is just pretty much around the corner. So I've seen so many different signs of Italy. I even went to college there for half a year. But I still just think about the food. I'm terrible. It's such a rich culture, there's so many things. I'm just thinking about the food. But honestly, I have never talked to any people about food so much as I did in Italy. Oh my God, we had like discussions about food and how to cook that sauce right and how to make that right. And it's just, yeah, really fascinating. Only food. Okay, how did I get to Italy? Oh, right, the terracotta, because that reminds me of Italy too. Oh, hi, Amy. Amy is Lily Koi Journals, and she's late to the party. Whoop, whoop, you made it. Aw. All right, well, Amy, we are in the middle of the color chart already. So join us. You don't even have to do the grid. You can just, you know, eyeball the grid for the color chart. Just jump right in. Next color we're gonna do the square here. And what colors are those gonna be? It's the yellow and the blue. So we're gonna mix yellow and blue. Grabbing some of my yellow. Medium cadmium yellow. Oh, you know what I have not mentioned at all, what is a kind of important for color mixing,
is the difference between warm colors and cool colors. So are you guys familiar with that concept? So all colors tend to have, how should I explain that? Kind of like an undertone. I don't know if that's the correct word, but if you look at different shades of yellow, you'll see that they look different. And it's not only because, you know, how much paint you use, you know, it's not just a matter of transparency, but the different yellows look different because some yellows tend to be on the warmer side and some yellows tend to be on the cooler side. And that depends on what other colors play into that color. So you'll have a yellow that is more on the bluish green side, and then you'll have a yellow that's more on the orangey reddish side, which automatically makes it warmer. So if you look at this yellow, and just, you know, from your belly, what would you think this is? I mean, is it more on the warm or is it more on the cooler side? So just as a gut instinct, I would say definitely this is more on the warmer side. And that's what it is, because the medium and dark cadmium yellow tend to have an orangey undertone, and then therefore are considered a warm yellow. And then some yellows look like they almost have a tint of blue. Like when you look at the neon yellow, for example, or a chartreuse, that would definitely be more of a cool yellow. Now, when you mix different colors, you will have different outcomes depending on if you mix a cool yellow with a cool red, or a warm yellow with a cool red, and a warm yellow with a warm red. You get the gist, right? So yellow is not yellow and red is not red. It really depends. And you can play endlessly with having only 3 colors, yellow, magenta, and blue, or yellow and red and blue, and use different kinds of yellows, different kinds of red, and different kinds of blue, and your mixes will look completely different. Even though the paint or the color, the base color, on your first glance might not look that different. So that's a pretty fascinating chapter too. And for me, I'm just trying to think if there are mixes that I like better, or I think make better blends. I'm not sure if I can really say that at this point. You know, I mean, I think it depends on your taste. Let's say some people will probably prefer cool colors, and some people will prefer warm colors in their paintings. For me personally, I like them both. And I think it also depends a little bit on what you're painting and what kind of mood you want to convey in your painting. All right, so we just did the yellow and the blue. Have this beautiful moss green. Yeah, apart from the purple, I think this one is my favorite. Nah, I also really love the indigo Payne's gray here. Well, I like them all, so. But I'm partial to green, so I do like the moss green we made here. Okay, let me just plug in my phone cord, my charging cord, just to make sure that I'm not gonna cut off all of a sudden. All right, and up next, we're gonna do the purple. So from this square, you just go back to the center and you have pink and blue, and that's what we're gonna do next. So grabbing some of my pink, rinsing my brush in both containers, grabbing some of my blue. Look at this pretty purple. All right, and because I was talking about warm colors and cool colors, let me just continue with the colors that I'm using today. So cobalt blue is considered to be a warm blue because it leans a little bit more towards yellow and the quinacridone pink is a cool color. So interesting to mix a warm blue with a cool pink. So, and I know that some people actually prefer to work with just only the cool colors, so they would never mix like a warm yellow with a cool pink and a warm blue. But honestly, I think the blends are gorgeous and I personally really love them, so I don't really pay attention too much if I use cool colors and mixed with warm colors. But if you want to dive deeper into this, and maybe if you're trying to find your own signature color palette, this might be an aspect to consider. You know, the difference between cool colors and warm colors. Just as a hint, just as a tip, something else to explore for your own style. Hi Petra! All right, look at that. We already have our little square of colors going on here. I think I dipped my hand in the screen, didn't I? Ah, this is so typical, but I'm just gonna leave it. Okay, up next, let's do this square. So you follow it back to the center, you have the yellow, you follow it over here, you have the brown. So we'll grab yellow, medium cadmium yellow, and the brown is a burnt umber. As I mentioned in the beginning, you're able to actually mix a brown yourself with just mixing yellow, pink, and blue, maybe adding a little bit of black depending on how dark you want your brown to be. But for this round of the challenge, we actually thought, having a designated brown, burnt umber brown would be nice to have. Because even though you could mix your own brown, it's probably not gonna be the kind of, the shade of brown that you might want. I'm just saying that not all browns are created equal. So I personally love the really dark browns, Van Dyke brown, burnt umber, and I find them a bit tricky to mix myself. I mean, it's possible, of course, but it's also nice to have convenience colors. You know exactly what you get. You have your pan of burnt umber and, it's there. You know it's gonna work. Okay, I dip my brush in water again to just dilute the mix I just created. And then I walk over to this square here, which is the equivalent of this one down here, to create my lighter version of the same color, dipping my brush into water to dilute it even more. All right, you guys. So which side do you like better right now? If you look at the color, when you look at the color chart, what do you feel more drawn to at this moment? Sorry, did I just cut out with the sound? I just received a phone call. So just in case you didn't hear me, sorry about that. I think I need to, weird. I did put my phone into do not disturb mode. Strange. All right, so I just asked about whether side you like better, which side you like better. Sylvie loves both. Mali is on the brighter side. You mean the lighter, brighter side? And Debbie is on the dark side with me. Yes, very good. Just a little Star Wars reference. Sorry, guys. Couldn't resist. Okay. Ooh, Amy's also on the dark side. It's a party. Okay, let's do the next square, which is this one here. Go back to the center. You have the pink, and then we're gonna mix it with our dark burnt umber. Pink first. See, I'm already running low on space here on my mixing tray. Okay, rinsing my brush before I pick up my burnt umber. And mixing it with my pink. Ooh, I have to say, that's quite the gorgeous color. I don't even know how to call this color, what to call this color. This is really gorgeous. I mean, oh, look at that. I mean, it looks just like brown at first, but because the quinacridone pink has very, very strong tinting strength, it's a very strong and dominant pigment, it shines through. And it comes through even more once it's dry. Wow, that was a shaky line. That's quite funny. I haven't even had coffee today and my hand's already shaky. How about that? Gosh, I love this color. This is so gorgeous. And this is what it looks like when it's dry. So see, it is brown, but then you see the undertone of the pink coming through. That's so pretty. Okay, I still have paint on my brush. I'm picking up a little bit of water on my brush and then just with this diluted version of the paint, go to this square up here with this, which is the corresponding one. Picking up a little bit more water and finishing up the lighter version of the square up here. Wonderful. Ah, this is so pretty. And I mean, look at, for example, these four colors together. I would have never actually thought of this color combo, just, you know, off the top of my head. But when you make color charts like that, you will realize that, oh wow, you could actually make your own limited color palette with, for example, these 4 colors that you've just created in your color chart. So yeah, this is another good reason to create color charts. All right, and the next square here is the blue and the burnt umber. Okay, let's move on to the next free space here on my ceramic palette. Picking up some of my cobalt blue, rinsing my brush, picking up some magenta, and that's where I went wrong. Okay, so forget about this one, guys. I just got a bit distracted. Let's do this again. It's gonna be blue and brown, not blue and pink. Another reason I told you to have 2 ceramic palettes today, because this might happen to you too. Okay, brown, not pink, Keiko. Let's try this again. And look, oh, we have this nice indigo slash Van Dyke slash Payne's gray. I think I added a bit too much brown, so I'll add some more blue. Okay, it looks black on the palette, I know, but wait till you see it on paper. I still think it's a bit too much of the brown in there, so let me correct, get some more blue into the mix. And just paint over this. So when you paint a lot of these color charts, you will get to know your paints very well, very quickly. So for example, here, I just learned that my brown is probably the bit stronger color than the blue, or the more dominant color in the mix. Just like this quinacridone, pink is a very strong and a very tinting color. It will steal the show of whatever other color you mix it with. So make sure you'll add enough of the other color. In this case, I had to make sure I add enough blue so that the swatch here just doesn't, you know, turn out being just like a dark brown. Or let me say like a darker version of my burnt umber here. Okay, Sylvie mixed the wrong colors. She went to the wrong line. I know, this happens. This happens. Oh no, I'm sorry. Oh, poor Sylvie. So I can just, as a tip for your next color chart, like really, I mean, I know it sounds stupid, but when you want to paint your next square, just really with your fingers, like go back to, you know, like the original colors and just, you know, blue and brown. And before you paint your swatch, just double check. I think it also depends, you know, if you painted it wrong, what color it is. So I think, you know, if you mixed up these two, for example, it might be easier to correct the mistake. So depending on the paper that you use, you could try and lift whatever color you painted. So let's say this would have been the wrong color to paint in this square. You can rinse your brush really well, and just by using water, go back in and try to lift the paint. Rinse your brush again, scrub over the color swatch you just painted. Just rinse and scrub, and see, it's almost gone. So if you take a hairdryer now and dry this part here, I'm pretty sure you could put down the correct color and you probably wouldn't even know that you made a mistake there. It honestly also depends pretty much on the kind of paper you use. If you use cheaper paper, then this might not be possible just because you might end up ripping the paper, or the paper might pill when you try to rub it too much. So this is pretty much a good solution for papers that can take a lot of water, very thick designated watercolor papers. But for those, you can try the lifting technique with a clean brush. Okay, I hope this helps. Just in case you made a mistake, you can try this technique to remove the paint swatch from your paper. And I would personally dry the spot where you make the mistake completely before you add the correct color. Because even when you use high quality paper, you know, you will have agitated the paper fibers quite a bit. The only reason I'm not doing this right now is because my hairdryer is far, far, far away. And I don't want to leave you guys alone so long. I'd feel bad. But you can actually, I think you could probably see that, see how the paper fibers, because I kind of rubbed so much on the paper, it's more visible. But I'm not worried about it. I just wanted to let you know that you can sometimes save watercolor paintings by removing paint from your paper, depending on what color it is and what paper you use. Hi, Susan. Susan says this takes a lot more concentration than she thought. Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, talking about putting the wrong color in the wrong square, yeah, I guess you couldn't just do it, you know, on the side while doing 10 other things. But I personally find that when you make a lot of these, you get really into the groove and you get the hang of it. And then, I mean, you still have to focus and concentrate, but not as much. And that's when it gets to the really relaxing point. I mean, for me, I guess, because I've done it quite a few times now. Okay, look at how pretty this already is. Oh man, I really like it. I have to say, I might actually leave the dark side and admit that I really like the bright side, the light side, the pastel side today. It's gorgeous. And also, I mean, can't we just be on both sides? Look at, for example, this dark indigo and then the light purple. These two together, I mean, wouldn't that be just gorgeous? Yeah, dark indigo, then these two colors, and the darker version of the pink. Like for a floral piece with some darker elements like small leaves and dark indigo, I think that would look really pretty. Can I be on both sides? I guess I can't, huh? The dark side and the light side. Okay, now we're gonna do the golden side. All right, for those of you who have just joined, I saved the gold for last because, first of all, gold is great, but also gold is everywhere, which means as soon as you start using gold, the gold will be on your brush, in your paint water, and therefore in all your other paints as well. It's very, very hard to rinse the golden pigments, metallic pigments, out from your brush. I actually know quite a few people who have designated brushes they use only for their metallic shimmer paints. I don't do that. I don't know. I don't mind. But it's just something that I want to mention here at this point. So if you want to keep your other swatches really clean and not shimmery, I would suggest that you always do the non-shimmer part of your color chart first and then add the shimmers later. All right, so I put down the full gold here on the bottom part, and then rinsed my brush and just added a little bit of water for the diluted version of the gold. And yes, this is Hula Queen Gold. And now we're gonna mix. So the first square here, you go back, find the yellow, and you move over and you find the gold. So now you have different options. I could go back and use my first palette here and just add gold because these are still the pure colors from the center diagonal line. Or I could try and squeeze it into my already very full palette. So I think instead of doing that, I'm going to move back to my original palette and just add gold. Picking up some of my gold, and have to add a little bit of water because the yellow already dried a little bit. Ooh, this is so pretty. Can you see the shimmer? Maybe not on the palette as much as on the paper. I think the shimmer comes out better on the paper. Feel free to move your paper in order to avoid dragging your hand through the paint that's still wet. I'm only not doing this because of the setup I have today. It would be a bit tricky to move things around. So I'm just doing the telescope painting brush posture here. Okay, so question, you guys. Do you mix non-shimmers with shimmer paints a lot, or do you prefer to use them straight out of the pan? So if you use metallic, then you just only use metallic, or if you use non-shimmers, then you use just non-shimmers, or do you mix them too, like I'm doing here, mixing the matte yellow with the shimmer gold? So do you have a preference? Up next is this. Oh, hold on, I need to fill this square here with the more diluted version of the same color. So rinsed my brush, picked up some water, and using both water and grabbing some of the paint I created here, just diluting everything to the point where I'm happy with my diluted mix. I think this is looking good. And then on the opposite side of my color chart, I'm filling in the more transparent version of the same color mix. And I just asked you guys if you wildly mix all your shimmers and non-shimmers, or you prefer to stick to just one kind of paint. Okay, so let's see what you're saying. Amy uses them all, no preference, and tends to not do all shimmer though. Yeah, me too. Except for lettering, if I do a lettering piece, I love using just shimmer. I think it just looks great with lettering, but yeah, for painting, I agree. And yeah, same here, Amy. I just, honestly, whenever you start using shimmer in a painting and you don't strictly separate with a different brush and a separate paint water, you'll have just like, shimmer everywhere. For me, also in my face and my hands and my clothing. Malie says it's her first time to mix them. Oh, great. Oh, I love that. See, something new. So, mixing matte paints, I'm calling them matte because, like as opposed to shimmer paints, and mixing them with shimmers creates colors that I don't think you can really buy on the market unless you buy them from somebody like me who makes their own watercolors. So I know for a fact that, for example, Stacy of Stay Kiwi Colors in New Zealand, she also creates paints with a non-shimmer base and then she adds shimmers. But I honestly don't know any industrial brands that create paints like that. They either have non-shimmer paints, purely matte pigments, or full mica sparkle shimmer metallic paints. So for you to create your very own signature color palette, if you do something like we're doing right now, mixing a shimmer with a non-shimmer, you will get something very unique. Okay, Michelle says, slight neutral shimmers for added pop, but not too much. Don't mind it if it all blends in, it looks like a fairy tale sometimes. Sparkle, sparkle, fairy tale. Yeah, it's true. I think the shimmers do give paintings like this additional magical layer, if you can say it like that. I don't think there's enough shimmer yet in my magenta swatch, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more gold to my quinacridone pink here. Yeah, that looks better. And just go over my swatch here one more time. Okay, and Sylvie says, the blue and magenta with Hula Queen is extremely gorgeous. Oh, yeah. So you mean mixing the blue and the magenta and the Hula Queen? Kind of like a purple with gold. Oops, that was the wrong side. Yeah, but purple and gold is such a great combo anyways. Or indigo and gold. Like pretty much all the dark colors with gold. Oh, I just love dark blue and gold. Like a navy, dark green and gold. The dark side mixed with gold. Now isn't this pretty? So if I added more gold to this, you'd get more of what it looks like here. And for this swatch, I used more of the pink, so the pink is a bit more dominant here. I quite like this. It's just a hint of gold. All right, I'm picking up some water with my brush. Just diluting my paint here to create the corresponding swatch here on the lighter side. So how are you feeling about this? You feeling more confident now that we're doing this? Do you like it? Do you feel like you're gonna create more color charts in the future? Or is this a bit too much, like too constricted, too mathematical? Yeah, so how do you feel about our little exercise today? All right, Sylvie's gonna do more. Well, you're already doing 2 today, aren't you? Oh, okay. I just saw that Sylvie actually meant it differently when she said combining blue and the pink and the gold. So not all mixed together, but just as a combo of 3. So magenta, blue, and gold. Yeah, that's a great combo. Absolutely. All right, what do we have next? Hey, there are just 2 more to go, guys. So for this square, going back, it's gonna be the blue and the gold. So I'm just gonna use what I have here and add some gold. So as soon as I added the gold, you can see that it takes on almost like a green tint. Adding some more blue. Okay, let's see what it's gonna look on paper. This is interesting. It turns the blue more gray, it almost looks like a Prussian blue now, but then it has this hint of gold. That's really pretty. So already, I mean, look at just these 3 colors here in the bottom row. These 3 together, I mean, oh, so pretty. And then maybe these 3 plus the dark indigo Payne's gray here. So these 4, yum yum. So in my head, just from this color chart, I'm creating like 4 new sets. That's the fate of a paint maker. I'm constantly creating new sets in my head. Ah, this is so pretty. I really like this. So again, in the original color chart, I used more gold, which very much muted the blue to an almost gray gold with a hint of blue. And in this one here, I used more blue, which makes the blue pop more, and then it's just a hint of gold on top. That's beautiful. You know, I really love this exercise because I sometimes feel like I know all my colors. I make colors all the time. I paint all the time. But making these color charts always leads to a surprise. At least that's how I feel about it. All right, I rinsed my brush. I picked up some of my color mix. I added some more water. Adding some more water right now to finish my swatch up here. Rinsing my brush again in both containers. And it's gonna be the last one, guys. Whoop, whoop. Okay, so that's gonna be the burnt umber and gold. Pick up some gold and some water because this is already dry. Ooh, this is very sparkly on my palette. Okay, let me put this to the side so I don't dip my hand in it. Yeah, I have to say I really love this bottom row, this color combination. I could see this color combination for maybe something around a Christmas theme. I mean, think of a nutcracker in these colors here, for example. I'm not sure if there's enough gold in this one. It looks kind of just brown. Let me add some gold. Okay, not too much, so the gold is not overriding the color too much, but yeah, this looks better. All right, and then I'm adding a bit more water to dilute my color here and filling the very last square of the day. It's still so quiet all around. Wow, we got so lucky today. I can hear a very, very faint lawnmower, but it's so far away. I don't think you can hear it. A little bit of a dog bark. But other than that, it's just some birds. It's wonderful. We got really lucky today. It's very, very rarely so quiet here. Ta-da! We did it! All right, let me see. Okay, I'm just getting up from my chair here. Let me zoom out a little bit more. All right, yeah, I think you can see it all. Let me grab this palette. It's quite pretty, isn't it? All the different color swatches. So, do you have a favorite in the color chart? Yeah, it's tough to decide on a favorite. I mean, these are so interesting. I mean, these two here, so yummy. And as I said, I really love the bottom row, but I also love these four here together. Yeah, I mean, that's just my personal taste, and maybe just today. It might be different tomorrow. But yeah, if you have a favorite, let me know which one it is. Or maybe you even have a favorite combo, like I just pointed out, these four here, or this bottom row. Okay, Mali says the blue and gold. So this one here, yep, it's really pretty. Okay, so let me see what I can tell you about the upcoming week. Oh yes, we're gonna have another live stream pretty soon. I'm not sure about the exact date yet. It's gonna be over on Instagram, I think, and it's gonna be with my co-host this month, Marie. So I'm gonna keep you guys updated, of course, about the next stream. And I hope you enjoyed today's session. If you paint a color chart, please let me know. And if you like this video and today's session, I would love it if you could leave me like a little heart on my video, or maybe even a comment in the comment section on YouTube. That would be marvelous. All right. I hope you had fun. Thank you for joining me today. I wish you all a fabulous day or evening, depending where you are. And keep well, and aloha.
Ciao, ciao.